إلى أرواح موتى الحاضرين وموتى المؤمنين من مات على الإيمان، من مات على ولاية أمير المؤمنين. إلى أرواح مراجعنا العظام، لا سيما السيد الإمام روح الله الموسوي الخميني قدس سره الشريف. إلى أرواح شهدائنا، شهداء الإسلام، شهداء الدفاع المقدس، شهداء على طريق القدس، لا سيما سيدي شهداء هذه الأمة. رحم الله من قرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين، حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا، سيدنا ومولانا أبا القاسم محمد عليه وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين، روح وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفدا، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين منذ آدم إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. قال تعالى في محكم التنزيل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ جاءتكم جنود فأرسلنا عليهم ريحا وجنودا لم تروها وكان الله بما تعملون بصيرا. إذ جاءوكم من فوقكم ومن أسفل منكم وإذ زاغت الأبصار وبلغت القلوب الحناجر وتظنون بالله الظنون. هنالك ابتلي المؤمنون وزلزلوا زلزالا شديدا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Ahzab, O you who believe, call to mind the favor of Allah to you when there came down upon you hosts. So we sent against them a strong wind and hosts that you saw not, and Allah is seeing what you do. When they came upon you from above you and from below you, and when the eyes turned dull and the hearts rose up to the throats, and you began to think diverse thoughts of Allah, there the believers were tried and they were shaken with a severe shaking. Sadaqallahu al-Aliyyul Azim. Allah Azza wa Jal in the Holy Quran, when He tells us stories of the past, and when He tells us stories about the situation of particular believers at the time of the Holy Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we treat these stories as guidance, as Allah Azza wa Jal has mentioned in His book that this is a book of guidance. So every word and every letter in this book is a letter and word of guidance. The stories being told are not stories for you and I to be entertained. If somebody could please fix that very annoying ringing. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sorry, it's annoying me. I don't know if it's annoying you or not. Mish al-hal? Okay. Can I trouble you for some water? Please. So unlike the Old Testament and the New Testament, these stories in the Holy Quran are not chronologically correct sometimes. They're not placed in an order, it's not in a storytelling form. Rather, Allah Azza wa Jal brings these stories forth in order for us to be guided by them. And in order for us to apply these stories and these situations and occurrences that happen in the past, we can apply them to our daily lives. This verse that I just opened up with in Surah Al-Ahzab, and there's another verse similar to it, inshallah we'll bring it up in a bit. Allah Azza wa Jal is discussing the situation of the believers at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ali during the battle of Al-Ahzab. Jazakallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali. At this time, the battle of Ahzab in a nutshell, the clans of the kuffar being funded by the Jewish tribes of Arabia had all gathered against the believers. Gathered against them to the point that some of the hypocrites amongst the believers, some of the munafiqun, those who were weak in their iman, those who had fractures in their discipline, those who were uncertain in their beliefs, Allah Azza wa Jal says, began to have false and began to have negative thoughts of Allah Azza wa Jal. That Allah Ta'ala has abandoned us. That Allah Azza wa Jal has sold us a dream, sold us lies. All of these enemies have gathered against us, and now we're about to be defeated. We are about to be destroyed. This particular verse is a verse, and I very rarely like to bring my personal experiences onto the minbar, but for the sake of benefit, inshallah, I will use this. This particular verse is a verse that helped me personally overcome the dire situation that we were in a few months ago in Lebanon. Alhamdulillah, Allah Azza wa Jal blessed me with the honor and the opportunity to be present in Lebanon when this global war was launched on the believers there. And it was a harsh war. It wasn't an easy war. Many of you watching the news may have seen. But being physically present on the ground there, you got to see firsthand the intensity of this war and how Allah Azza wa Jal truly tested the believers. Every form of military hardware and technology was used against us. Bombs that had never been used in the history of warfare were being dropped on populated cities like the southern suburbs of Beirut and the south of Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley. If a bomb would drop 3 or 4 kilometers away from my house, it would feel as if the bomb was being dropped in your living room. Your entire world would shake. The screaming of your children, the loss of your loved ones. On the first day of this war, or rather 2 days before the actual war began, in one strike I lost 64 of my neighbors. Imagine, 64 believers, 64 people you see on a daily basis in the masjid and in the shops and in the marketplace, and they come to your house and you go to theirs, and your children play with their children that your children used to play with. All of these people, 64 souls, perished in one moment, in one massacre. All the way leading up to the loss of our dear Sayyid, may Allah Azza wa Jal elevate his ranks. And for many of the believers, this broke us. This verse in particular is a verse that we were recommended by our teachers and our ulama to continuously recite and continuously remember, because many were asking, where is Allah Azza wa Jal in all of this? Are we not the party of Allah? Are we not believers? Are we not His servants? Why has He allowed for the enemy to have this apparent upper hand on us? Many turned away from their faith. There are some that stopped praying. There are some that even began to question the aqeedah, the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal, the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Small minority, alhamdulillah. What shocked me the most was not what I saw on the ground there in Lebanon. Rather, it is when I left and came to the West and faced the believers in the diaspora like yourselves, and found that the repercussions of this conflict had affected the faith of even the believers in the West. where continuously I am questioned, that we were raised and grew up all of these years. We were promised this victory and this victory and this victory. And then all of this happened to us in a space of a couple of months. The foundations of their faith were shook. Allah Azza wa Jal answers this question in another verse where He uses a very similar wording. The issue of zalzala, the shaking. Look at this verse in the Quran. And this answers this question. This complements the verse that we open up with. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah Azza wa Jal in Surah Al-Baqarah says, أَمْ حَسِبْتُمْ أَن تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ وَلَمَّا يَأْتِكُمْ مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ خَلَوْا مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ مستهم البأساء والضراء وزلزلوا حتى يقول الرسول والذين آمنوا معه متى نصر الله ألا إن نصر الله قريب. Allah Azza wa Jal says, or do you think that you would enter the garden Jannah while yet the state of those who have passed away before you has not come upon you? Distress and affliction befell them, and they were shaken violently, so that the apostle and those who believed with him said, when will the help of Allah come? Now surely the help of Allah is nigh. Allah Azza wa Jal is telling us in this verse here that listen, no matter what afflictions befall you, no matter what hardships fall upon you, no matter what apparent defeat the enemy blows towards you, this is my sunnah. This is my tradition. This is an equation that I've been dealing with the believers with since the beginning of time. I use these situations to sift through the believers, to see who is really on the path, to see who is truly a servant of mine. And after this, I guarantee you, there'll be a victory. If you hold firm. And if you do not doubt Allah Azza wa Jal, and if you have faith in the promise of Allah Azza wa Jal. Because what became apparent to us over the last few months, that there were many who were on the path, and many who were firm, and many who were, if we could say, zealots and brave, for so long as we were victorious. When there was victory, when things were good, they were happy and they held firm onto the path of Allah Ta'ala. But when, as Allah says in the verse we open up with, when the hearts reach the throats, this is when you are tested. It's easy to be committed when you're on the winning side. It's easy to devote yourself to a path when this path is being victorious. Victory after victory, victory after victory. It's easy to be on this side. But at the end of the day, this is war. This is war. You're not punching a punching bag. It hits back sometimes. As Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, he says that war, thank you Ali Habibi, Jazakallah. That war is a day for you against your enemy and a day for your enemy against you. This is the logical way to think. When you begin to doubt in Allah, وَتَظِنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ الظُّنُونَ, when you begin to doubt in Allah Ta'ala, this exposes to yourself, first of all, the quality of your faith. Over the next few nights, inshallah, we'll be discussing hope in Allah Azza wa Jal, trust in Allah Azza wa Jal, and certainty in the promise of Allah Azza wa Jal. Because right now, more than ever, we are in need of this. And we've seen in the Holy Quran how when this trust is broken between you and Allah Ta'ala, how it leads to your very own destruction. Take the story of Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, for example. Of Nuh, salamullahi alayhi. As most of you know, according to the Holy Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal destroys him along with the disbelievers. When the flood comes, he refuses to board the ark with his father Nuh. And some of the Mufassirin, they say to us that this is the saddest story in the Holy Quran. It's truly sad. If you think about the details of this story and ponder upon it, it's extremely sad. The man who is entrusted with the salvation of all of mankind at the time, who has been promising mankind the victory of Allah Ta'ala, who commands his followers to build an ark in the desert, telling them that a great flood will come. How much faith must you have to follow such a man? Just to put things into perspective, how the ark of Nuh comes to play. It's very good to understand these facts behind what we are told in the Holy Quran. You see, Nuh alayhi salam, at his time, the majority of humanity is his people. The majority of humanity. And the overwhelming majority are disbelievers. And they doubted Nuh, and they mocked Nuh, and they hurt Nuh and his followers. Nuh and his followers continuously pray for salvation. They pray that Allah Azza wa Jal sends them a victory from the heavens. Allah Azza wa Jal one day answers Nuh's prayers. But look how he answers his prayers. Put yourself now in the position of Nuh alayhi salam. All of this attack and all of this hate aimed towards you, and all of this harm and all of this abuse and all of this ridicule, and the entire world is making fun of you. And try and relate now to what's happening to us. The whole world is mocking you. The whole world has gathered against you. You ask for salvation from the Almighty God. Allah Azza wa Jal sends the Archangel Gabriel down to Nuh, delivering salvation. He says to Nuh, Ya Nuh, I have finally come with the victory of Allah Ta'ala. Nuh says, amazing. Where is this victory? Jibreel alayhi salam opens his hand and he shows Nuh a date. Tamra, one date. He says to him, Ya Nuh, this is your victory here. Can you imagine? Nuh alayhi salam says, what are you doing? Are you making fun of me? Are you mocking me? He says to him, no, Nuh. This is Allah's victory. Eat the date. Eat the date. And once you eat the date, take the seeds from this date and plant it. And wait until this tree grows. And when the tree grows, Ya Nuh, does anyone know how long it takes for a date palm tree to grow? It takes about 30, 40 years. Yeah? It's a very long time. Very long time before it starts producing actual dates, these massive date palm trees. Very long time. So Nuh does this. And now a date palm grows. And Nuh says to Jibreel after decades, now what? He says to him, very good. Now take the dates from this tree, give them to the believers. Let them eat. And each one of them that eats, let him take a seed and plant it. And the believers do this. And every year, some of these believers, they drop off. To cut a very long story short, when Nuh alayhi salam now has this orchard of date palms, Jibreel says to him, now cut down these trees and build an ark. There is a flood coming. Nuh says, where's the flood? In the middle of the desert here. He says to him, yes. Now imagine Nuh has to go back to his followers and say to them that this is the promise of Allah, that there will be a flood. Here is the test. الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. They believe in the unseen. Khalas. We have utmost trust in Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah promised us a flood will come and destroy the disbelievers in the desert. We trust Allah Azza wa Jal. So we're going to build the ark in the desert. And the disbelievers, they see Nuh. And they see his followers building this ark. And they mock him. And they ridicule them. And they make jokes. And they disgrace the believers. But this small group of believers continue with Nuh and they build the ark. Now amongst these believers is who? The son of Nuh. The son of Nuh, contrary to popular belief, is not a kafir. He's not a disbeliever. He believes in the prophethood of his father. He believes in the religion of his father. He believes in the mission of his father. But when the ground brought forth its water, and the rains began to fall from the sky, and the desert began to flood, and as Allah Azza wa Jal says in the verse before, the hearts reached the throats, this son of Nuh said there is no way this flimsy ark is going to hold out in this flood. His faith was weak and he distrusted in Allah Ta'ala. He said, I will run to the highest mountain and Allah will save me. He goes from being the son of Nuh. Allah Azza wa Jal then says to Nuh, he is not from your household. Not only is he a disbeliever now, he's not even your son anymore, Ya Nuh. Those who boarded the ark were saved, and this son of Nuh, whose faith was tested, was perished and destroyed. Today, while the world ridicules us, and while the world mocks us, and while the world gathers against us like a pack of savage, rabid dogs, from every corner of the globe, the minions and spawns of Satan have emerged against us, gnashing and gnawing their teeth and their claws at us. The vilest of Allah's creation have now emerged thinking that they have the upper hand against us. And the richest and the most well-armed armies of the world today, as we sit here and speak, are bombing the poorest country in the world, Yemen, because Yemen refused to kneel down to tyranny, refused to doubt in the promise of Allah Azza wa Jal, refused to succumb to the evil powers that be. When the Arabs and the Turks and the Takfiris and the Zionists and the Americans have all gathered against us, now, today, your faith is tested. Today, you either show up or you don't. There is no more time. The flood has come. The ground has brought forth its water, and the heavens has opened up for the rains. Today, this very moment, there is no room for those who are shaky. There is no room for those who have doubt in their heart. There is no room for the weak. There is no room for the cowards. Today, only the brave will survive. Today, only those who have faith in the promise of Allah Ta'ala, irrespective of what the tangible results in front of us are. But we have faith and promise in the promise of Allah Ta'ala. Today it is those who board the ark, and everyone else will perish. We need to understand, last year when I was here, I said to you that we are at war. Who remembers that? You remember this? And there are many that said that I am being a little bit dramatic. You may not feel the pinch now here in Canada. But let me tell you, in Australia, we're beginning to feel the pinch. We're beginning to feel the powers of evil and the agents of tyranny coming down on the believers. Your brothers and sisters in the United States now are feeling it. They're being dragged from their homes, out of their university classes, having their visas and their citizenships cancelled and shipped off to God knows where, held at undisclosed locations. These are the democracies we live in. The pus which is now emerging from this infected society has now come to surface. And the filth is now obvious. And truth from falsehood is now clear. You have a responsibility tonight to decide which side of the fence you will be on. Which side of history would you be on? Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by geography. That there is thousands of kilometers between us and the military conflict. This war will be waged on you here. This war is being waged on you here. And we have only one way to be saved. One way. And there is no other. And that is to hold on to the promise of Allah Azza wa Jal, which is manifested in the personality of Qa'im al-Muhammad Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif. Now, I'm not a fan of bringing the signs of the Qa'im and applying them to our modern era and telling you that this is the time of the emergence of the Imam. This is not our business. This has nothing to do with you and I. When the Imam appears, what day he appears, what year he appears, is this the army of a Sufyani? Is this not the army? This is not your business. You have one duty, and that is your taklif. To do what you're supposed to be doing. The signs are not there for you to take them as markers, that I kick back, relax, and be lazy in the servitude towards Allah Azza wa Jal and my duty towards the believers. And then once I see the signs appearing, I get up and I start to work. That's not what they're there for. That's not what they're there for. Whether the appearance is today or tomorrow, your taklif, your duty remains. Allah Azza wa Jal has given you clear-cut commands in the Holy Quran. The only time you fail, the only time you lose, is when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. This is when you fail. This is when you lose. Not when you lose the tangible battle. Not when you lose material things. Allah Azza, even people, Allah Azza wa Jal is always there. I'll tell you a story. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. How many of us here were shook when they heard the news of our dear Sayyid? How many of us cried blood for days? On that day, as a witness, standing at the window of where we were displaced to, my family and I, we were 18 people living in a house, a very small unit, only 3 kilometers outside of the Dahi. And we become accustomed to the sound of the aircraft and the bombings. Even our children, my 4-year-old son, became very accustomed, to the point where he could tell the difference between a drone and an actual fighter jet for a 4-year-old. This was the situation we were in. But on that day, on that moment, the roaring of the jets was so loud and so low that we thought they were passenger jets. That's how big the sound was. That's how loud it was. And we ran to the window to look up at the sky, and we saw the droves of the jets fly right over our heads. They were so low. And then for about 2 minutes, the entire world shook. The entire world trembled. And you could hear the screaming of the women and children in the streets, even though the strike was kilometers away. But it was like an earthquake. How dangerous was our Sayyid? 86 tons they had to drop on him. 86,000 kilograms of high-grade explosives to kill one man. One man. How dangerous was he to them? Now, when we found out in what area these bombs were dropped, those of us who live in the southern suburbs of Beirut are very familiar with the areas there. One of my relatives immediately said, "Id'u Allah yahmi Sayyid." May Allah Azza wa Jal protect the Sayyid. This is not a normal strike. And then one of those present in the room, in the corner, recites a verse from the Quran immediately. And I hear it, and immediately it gives us serenity and calmness. The verse was, وَمَا مُحَمَّدْ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انْقَلَبْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ. And Muhammad is but a messenger. Many messengers have perished before him. If he were to die or be killed, would you turn back on your heels? Allah addressing the believers at the time of Rasulullah, saying to them, if Rasulullah dies, does this mean you go back to kufr? He's only a messenger. Later on that day, one of my teachers tells me a story at the time of Sayyid Imam Al-Khomeini, قدس سره الشريف, a salawat for his soul, please. At the time of the establishment of the Islamic Republic, right after the victory of the Islamic Revolution. And you need to understand the miracle which is the Islamic Republic. Those of us who are old enough to remember, the entire world stood in the face of the establishment of this republic. The two grand superpowers of the world who were at each other's throats and killing one another, the United States and the Soviet Union, they both united on extinguishing the light of this Islamic Republic and making sure that it doesn't see the light of day. Yet Allah Azza wa Jal gives victory to the believers, and Sayyid Imam Al-Khomeini is able to establish this Islamic Republic, and the revolution is successful. In the early months of this establishment, there is a wave of terrorist attacks funded by the great Satan. One of these attacks targets the headquarters of the Islamic Republic Party. And in one attack, dozens of founders of the Islamic Revolution are martyred. Amongst them is Ayatollah Beheshti, rahmatullah. These are the comrades of Sayyid Imam Al-Khomeini. These are people who fought and struggled and suffered and who were imprisoned, and they were the backbone and the cornerstones of the Islamic Revolution. And in one attack, they are all gone. And they come to Sayyid Imam and they say to him, Ayatollah Beheshti is gone. Sheikh Fulan is gone. Sayyid Fulan is gone. Fulan is gone. Fulan is gone. Sayyid Imam, he taps his hand like this and he says, Allah fi saha. That yes, they are gone. But Allah Azza wa Jal remains in the arena. What is wrong with you that you are shook at the loss of individuals? If our religion was to perish at the killing of our leaders, then we would have all ended in Karbala. Our religion would have ended on the day of Ashura, 61 years after Hijrah, finished. But I ask you today, where is Yazid? Where is Imam al-Hussain? Who is victorious, Yazid or Hussain alayhi salam? Who has a loving and a following and whose banner rises, Yazid la'natullah alayh or Aba Abdullah al-Hussain? If the killing of al-Hussain alayhi salam did not destroy this path, then the killing of the servants of al-Hussain alayhi salam definitely cannot extinguish this light. If anything, this should embolden us. We have this responsibility and this duty. The lines in the sand have been drawn. Which side of the line you end up on depends on you. Are you going to submit to the powers that be? Are you going to admit defeat? Or are you going to take advantage of the unique position that you are in? The unique position of being in these lands, in the belly of the beast. Your taklif is much more important today than it ever was. Your role is much more effective today than it ever was. You have a responsibility to carry the banner of truth here, brothers and sisters. Their animosity is not towards your race or your ethnicity or your color. Their animosity is towards your creed, your religion, your deen, your Quran, your sunnah. Because everything that they have established their satanic empires upon, our Quran and our Sunnah of Muhammad wa al-Muhammad has come to challenge that and to rock that boat and tear down their temple. You carry a thought, you carry an ideology which is dangerous. You are a dangerous individual. You are a powerful individual if you arm yourself with this truth. This Quran of ours is a global manifesto. This religion of ours is a global religion. لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْمُشْرِكُونَ. Allah Azza wa Jal promises this to His holy messenger, that your religion will surpass the world, will encompass the world. You have the answers to the sicknesses and the illnesses of society today. They do not fight us because we are different. They fight us because if we were to implement our religion, if we were to implement our creed, if we were to apply the Quran as is, if we were to apply the religion of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi as is in our families and in our communities and in our societies, then their civilizations will crumble. Everything that they have propped themselves up on is falsehood. I've said this before, I'll say it again, just as a reminder. And we'll end with this inshallah, and in the coming nights we'll discuss more on the issue. Why is it, do you think, that they dislike Islam? Have you ever thought about what their problem with Islam and Muslims is? Allah Azza wa Jal, and this is something which is very shameful. And this goes back to having trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Trust in His promises. We have this inferiority complex as Muslims living in the West. It's a big problem. It's a very big problem. We are always exhausting ourselves and attempting to present ourselves and our religion in a way which is pleasant and pleasing to the non-Muslim. We are always trying to do this, continuously. And we hear it sometimes from our elders and our parents, don't do this, don't say that, they're going to think bad of you, don't embarrass Islam, don't embarrass Muslims. Gone to the extent sometimes where parents discourage even their daughters from hijab sometimes, or discourage their children from praying in public, or from even growing a beard. These are things I've heard and seen, not stories. Don't do this. The disbelievers, they'll feel uncomfortable. Continuously we're trying to please them. If we had any faith in Allah Azza wa Jal and we treated the Quran as a constitution, then we would see Allah's promise in the Quran. He says to us that all of this that you're doing is useless. All of it is useless. Allah Azza wa Jal, amongst many promises in the Quran, there is a guarantee that He gives us in this regard. A guarantee, 100% guarantee. وَلَن تَرْضَ عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَا النَّصَارَى حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُمْ. The Jews and the Christians, in the Arabic language, there's a difference between lan with a noon and lam. Lam, if I say lam ya'ti Ali, it means Ali has not come yet. He may come later. Lan ya'ti Ali, it means Ali will never come. Guaranteed, he will never ever come. Allah is telling you lan bin noon, وَلَن تَرْضَ عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَا النَّصَارَى حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُم. The Jews nor the Christians will be pleased with you until you follow their creed. This doesn't mean until you become Jewish or Christian. This means until you become that Muslim that they love, that Muslim which resembles them, the Muslim which has compromised his faith, the Muslim which attends the White House iftars and the Prime Minister's iftars and sits in Congress and sits and rubs shoulders with senators and attends the Queen's gatherings and the King's gatherings and is begging the politicians to attend and seeking their grants. The Muslim who is okay with the whole LGBTQ rainbow people situation. The Muslim who is silent towards the aggression and the genocide and the murder. This is the Muslim that they are pleased with. This is the house Muslim that they love. This is the lapdog Muslim. This is the defeatist Muslim. This is in fact a kafir in Muslim skin. This is the Muslim they want. This is who they want. They don't want the Muslim that comes and applies the book of Allah Ta'ala. They don't want the Muslim that stands up for the truth and is firm. Look at our brother, my dear brother, Sayyid Hussain Makki. May Allah Azza wa Jal protect him and preserve his life. A salawat for his preservation and protection, inshallah. Sayyid Hussain, for a very long time, since I met him, but more so since October 7, has stood for the truth and gone head to head with the tyrants and tyranny and the devils of this world. And more than often on his own, exposing the crimes of Zionism and the great Satan, challenging their media pieces, challenging their narrative, getting the Muslims to rally and to rise up in the West and pressure their governments, all in legal means. These democracies which lie to us and tell us that you have the right to express your opinion, and we've given you the right to freedom of expression and freedom of speech, have now demonized him, where I'm from, Australia, this great democracy, and launched the most savage of a defamation campaign and smeared him to the point where our government, my government unfortunately, was forced to cancel his visa and bar him from entering the country, simply because he spoke the truth. And this is a badge of honor. I envy Sayyid Hussain for this. I'll leave you with this piece of advice. When these governments and when these systems and when these politicians and decision makers are pleased with you, when they are happy with you, when they are comfortable in your presence, then know for certain that you are on the wrong side of history. Know for certain that you are no longer in the party of Allah Azza wa Jal. Know for certain that you have disembarked from the ark of salvation. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم واهلك عدوهم اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله، وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك، وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة بمحمد وعترته الطاهرة صلواتك عليه وعليهم أجمعين.